Hi, my name's Laura Barman. I'm the homeschooling mom of 5 kids. My oldest is Lucy, and she is just completed 4th grade. She'll be in 5th grade next year. This video is going to be a recap of last year, so I'm just going to talk about what they just finished. So my daughter Lucy was 9 this past school year, and she did 4th grade. My daughter Bridget was 7 this past year, and she did 2nd grade. And a little bit of 3rd grade stuff at the end. She kind of did half of a 2nd grade year and half of a 3rd grade year. My son Josiah was 5 and he did kindergarten. My daughter Hannah was 2 and she just kind of played and did fun things here and there. And I had a baby in January and obviously she didn't do anything. So we're going to start with some family subjects. I love these videos. They help me so much seeing what other moms do. So I wanted to give a shot at sharing what we've done. So every morning we started the day at the breakfast table. Around 8:30 was my goal to have everyone at the breakfast table, and we would start with Bible. And I would get all the kids their stuff, and once everyone was seated, we would try to do as good of a job as we could doing Abeka Bible curriculum. I hope that that's not backwards, but it probably is. Anyways, this is awesome, and we have done it ever since my oldest was in 1st grade. We've done their grade level Bible curriculum. This year, 4th grade was a repeat of a lot of the 1st grade Bible stories. So I'm going to show you what we had. Most of it, if you look at the Abeka Bible homeschool curriculum, a lot of it is a repeat from 1st grade to 4th grade, but I felt like that was really great because we were kind of coming back to what we'd done before. Every year they always do the Salvation series, and they always do some Christmas is every year, and every year there's also a Thanksgiving series, and so we did that as well. But this particular year we started with creation, Adam and Eve, Enoch, Noah and the Tower of Babel, Abraham and Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and then we moved from the Old Testament to the New Testament and did the boyhood and early ministry of Jesus, Jesus heals and helps, the later ministry of Jesus. During Easter, they make sure that it kind of lines up to do crucifixion, resurrection. And let me just show you what these are like. So in the teacher guide, it's basically going to just say what you do that day. And it's like, read this story, maybe ask some review questions, sing a few songs, which are on this CD, and go from there. So every day I would at least read the story and do the comprehension questions. The comprehension questions are actually just in this book. And I would review from the previous lesson or two. And then as you tell the story, which is word for word in this teacher guide, you have these really nice big pictures that you can show. And normally each day there's about 3 to 4 of these at least. So this is we've always loved this. It's good for all ages, and it really gets them thinking about the story. One thing that I do recommend for these Bible songs is to load it on your phone. It makes it a lot easier. And then we also have gotten these hymnal books. This is Sing to the Lord. And this past year, maybe 2 years ago, I got them each a book. You can find these on eBay, but I've purchased those that way. And on the teacher guide, it will tell you what page the song is. So it's kind of just like a hymnal. It has the music and everything, and they can follow along. So some days we would do that. We did not do their Bible memory. Their Bible memory was definitely at a 4th grade level. And since I had a kindergartner and a 2nd grade and a 4th grade, I felt like that wasn't the best choice for us. Our CC group did Bible memory. So we just kind of did it that way. We did Exodus 20. And actually Bible memory was something that I had higher hopes for than what we actually accomplished. So hopefully next year we'll do better with that. Oh, and I forgot to mention, for the 4th grade year, they do go at a faster pace, and what they're able to fit in that they aren't able to fit in the 1st grade level is not just the life of Paul, but also the later ministry of Paul. So this is Life of Paul Series 2, which is basically the book of Acts, the second half of Acts. So that was really fun to do for the first time. So we love that. Another thing that we would do together sometimes in the morning, most of the time this was at lunch or driving around in the car, is our read aloud. So we had a read aloud was Secret Garden. And then we also read little Indian in the Cupboard. And I don't have a copy of that on me, can't find it. And I got these books, these Christian Heroes Then and Now. I got these because I bought Exploring Countries and Cultures through My Father's World, and I never actually got around to doing that full curriculum, but we loved the books that we read from that curriculum. So the first one we did was Nate Saint. They loved that, and then we just kept going. We did Nate Saint, we did Gladys Aylward, we did Amy Carmichael, then George Mueller, and David Livingstone, and that basically took the rest of our year. We also read Jotham's Journey at Christmas time and really enjoyed that. Another read aloud that I almost forgot to mention is By the Great Horn Spoon. It was probably one of our favorites the whole year. I can't remember where we got that recommendation, but we absolutely loved it and ended the year on that one. And another thing that we did together is history. So since we do CC, I try to find history that goes along with the cycle. So we were doing cycle 1, which is ancient history. My daughter's a 4th grader, so this was our second time through the cycle with her. And the first time through the cycle, we did Story of the World, Volume 1, and we really did enjoy that. But I had heard other people talking about Mystery of History, so I thought I'd try something a little bit different. So here is the nice, super nice hardcover book with full color, full color everything. And I think one way that I preferred this to Story of the World was that one thing I preferred about it was the color. Everything was in this one book. So I could read it and show them the pictures in this one book. Whereas the Story of the World, it's black and white and there's not pictures. So I felt like I needed to find them pictures either in the activity guide or online to kind of show them what we were talking about. Actually, I also had an Usborne book that I showed them pictures from. So this was just nice to have everything in one place. The narrative voice of Story of the World was a little bit different than this one. I really liked both of them. I think we might go back to Story of the World 2 for medieval history next year because I think it is a little bit more story-like, Story of the World, than this, which is a little bit more like a textbook. I really do like the author's voice, and we might come back to it. But just, full transparency, we probably will be going to Story of the World 2. We're bouncing around, and maybe we'll come back to Mystery of History eventually. This is the activity guide. It was really, really thick, so I got this super thick binder. I can't remember how many inches, maybe 2 or 3 inches. It might be 3 inches. And hole punched all of these pages for the activity guide. And there's all sorts of crafts and projects. There is tests, review questions. One thing that we did not use this to its full potential. I would say the most that we did is we did some review. The first half of the year, we did a lot of the review questions. We did a lot of the little tests and quizzes that they had. And we actually did tests, but once we had our baby in January, that kind of went out the window. We did keep reading. They recommend that you get these Bible atlases, or this Bible atlas and this atlas. So we bought those, and probably my favorite thing that they have us do, or that they recommended, was these little timeline cards, and you print these off. And as we were going through, I would print off the little pictures that corresponded with our reading. And I would just kind of lay them out on the table, and the kids would pick and color them with either skinny markers or colored pencils. And as we went along, we got all those colored. And then they teach you how to, in the guide, they teach you how to make this huge timeline board. I don't know if you can see how big this is. But that's starting. Let's see. I don't know how far down we got. I have not even taped all of these on yet. But I think we'll probably be able to get volumes. You would be able to get volumes 1 and 2 from Mystery of History onto one board. So then you could do the back for volumes 3 and 4. This is kind of an under the radar thing that I discovered about halfway through the year, just looking on a Facebook group, was these comprehension questions. They're called challenge cards. This is what the cover page looks like. And I think it's $15. And basically the review questions for the chapters in Mystery of History. So I saw someone say, like, even if you don't get to any of the tests or quizzes, if you just kind of review these, that's the best way that your kids are going to remember. And it was a lot simpler because I could just take the book to the table, take the timeline cards to color to the table, and take the review cards to the table. In the back half of that year, that's all I did. I just read, they colored their little timeline cards, that gave them something to do, and then we asked the review questions. And that was enough, and it was a good amount of time too. I just kind of missed like the variety of stories from that first person point of view that Story of the World had, so I thought I might go back to that this upcoming year. So we really liked history. Probably one of our favorite things has been science, and we've been doing Good and the Beautiful science units for a while now. We started the year by finishing botany, and all of these Good and the Beautiful studies I put in just a binder. And I really recommend buying these from Good and the Beautiful because they'll print it on like way nicer paper than you can print it at home. And I'll put like a lesson or two and then a divider page. And then like this, for example, this is lesson 1. And if you've ever used Good and the Beautiful, there's a lot of things that you like print off. And so like this is like a little booklet that you cut and staple together, or little pictures that you might cut and display on the table. So if you ever want to use it again, it's really handy to have these like pocket dividers. So then at the end of the lesson, I'll put like chapter 1 goes in that pocket, and then the second lesson in this little area will go in this pocket. So that's kind of how I organize it, which was really handy. So we did the second half of botany because we hadn't quite finished it the year before, and this did line up with CC Cycle 1. And I always buy the additional books that they sell. So there's this flower study book that we liked. And then these really just are quick little reads, but it's just nice to have them on hand. Carl in the Garden, and then there's this flower game that we did. At the beginning of the year, we did do a few nature study outings. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Nature study is one thing that we didn't do as good of a job with as I would have liked to. But I think looking back, we did do some at the beginning of the year. And I know we were doing some nature study while we were doing botany because that was such a good fit. Then we moved into Kingdoms and Classifications, which was Good and the Beautiful as well. And this went well with this book. I think she even recommended this book, Greg's Microscope, which was a great read aloud during that one. And for this Kingdoms and Classifications, we bought a microscope, and the kids had tons of fun with that. And I just had this Usborne microscope book that we did with that. And then after Kingdoms and Classifications, which actually is also a great fit for CC Cycle 1, which is why we did that, we went into geology. Again, I chose this one because it was a good fit for CC Cycle 1. This one I printed myself, and you can kind of tell it's not as nice. I don't know if you can tell, but the quality of the paper isn't as great, but we absolutely loved it. We had so much fun with this one. We always did all the projects in this. We did, like I said, we didn't do all the history projects, but we always made sure to do the science projects. Those were just a little bit more hands-on, and my younger kids loved participating with those too. And these were the books that came with that set, and then there was a little Rocks and Minerals kit that came with it, and I ended up buying another Rocks and Minerals kit on Amazon because just to have enough rocks for all of the kids to have some cool rocks. They recommend using like an egg carton, that each kid gets an egg carton and basically makes their own little rock collection during that study. And then after we had finished those three units that really fit well with CC Cycle 1, classical conversations is what I'm referring to when I say CC. We had like a little bit of extra time, so we just added one. I looked through all the science units, and I just was like, well, what would be a fun one that maybe won't be covered specifically by classical conversations, and that was birds. So we did birds. We ended the year with birds, and we really enjoyed it. We have a bird feeder right off our deck that the kids love, seeing all the birds. And I feel like even before we did the birds unit, we had identified the birds that came to our deck and kind of know their names, but or know their their species, but this was great and we learned a lot. Along with this, you get, or you can order these little bird watching notebooks that I got for my 2 older girls. And then some read aloud. Mission Migration was a read aloud. Songbird Study was a read aloud. Songbird Study was not a read aloud, sorry, it was more like a just informational book that we read maybe like 3 birds a day for a while. And then they even have a little game for birds of prey. And I want to say there's 2 more books that we read. Let me go grab them. Here are 2 other books that we had. So this was the Nature Reader bird book. This I actually just had my girls read, my older girls, so they were in 2nd and 4th grade. They read this on their own, just during like their assigned reading time. It's not super hard. I could have read this as a read aloud, but it fit better in our day to have them do it. And then this was also a recommended book for older kids. This was level 7, so my 4th grader, I let her take her time with this. I probably assigned like 5 pages a day in this, but she really enjoyed it. So those were our 2 additional bird books. After that, the only other thing that we did as a family actually ended up being spelling. And we have really struggled finding a spelling curriculum that really works well for us. We always start with Abeka Language Arts, and all of my kids have really done well with that. But I'm trying to get this camera working. Around Abeka level 2 or 3, the spelling was not clicking, and I think I might have a little bit of a struggling speller. And I heard a lot about all about spelling. So we did not learn to read with all about reading. We learned to read using phonics approach from Abeka. I just felt like the Abeka method of spelling instruction wasn't what we needed. So I bought all the levels of all about spelling, and sorry, this is level 2. We started with level 1. We just went right back to the beginning, and I taught this together with my 2nd grader and my 4th grader, and we just started all the way at the beginning. There is only 24 lessons in this, so I felt like it was totally reasonable to do 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring, and that's what we did. So we did level 1 in the fall. We did level 2 in the spring, and level 2 has 25 steps. That ended up being 1 to 2 lessons a week. And then they have all these little cards that you use. It's definitely a pretty involved way of teaching. I feel like it's really good, and it builds on Abeka and how Abeka teaches you to read. I feel like you can use them together. And we use the app instead of the magnets, and I feel like that makes it a little bit easier. The verdict is still out to see what really helps with spelling, because I still feel like my struggling speller is struggling with spelling. We will probably keep going with all about spelling for another year and just see if it clicks better next year. The level 1 and the level 2 are pretty easy words. Those aren't the words that she's struggling with spelling. So maybe that's why I haven't seen like a marked improvement, but I wanted to start at the beginning just so that all their concepts and their rules were kind of like under our belt before skipping to level 3. I don't think that this would be, now that we've done it, I don't think that this would be a good program to jump in at level 3 or level 4. I feel like you do need to start at the beginning. So that was spelling. I did that together with my 2nd and 4th grader. And then at the end of the year, I wanted to do more of a literature study with my oldest. And I remember that I had this curriculum called Drawn into the Heart of Reading by Heart of Dakota. And I like it because you get to choose your books. And I love choosing the books. There's this great book list, and I don't have it on me, but it's like $5 and they sell it. And you get to choose everything. You get to choose which book each kid is reading. So since I had a 2nd grader and a 4th grader, we would do 1 unit, which we would do like the fantasy unit. And I would pick a fantasy book for each of them from the selected list. And that list had probably 20 to 30 books for each level. And then the lessons can go with different levels of students. So it worked really well. We did not do that until probably April and May in the spring. So we didn't get a full taste of it. I think we did 2 units, but we really liked what we did. And I feel like it's a really good curriculum to kind of pick and choose what you want from it. Even if you just use, she has a bunch of ideas for like the genre and some fun things to do for the genre. Even if you just did that, I feel like it'd be worth it. And these are the student note pages, which we didn't do a ton of these, but it's just supplemental. I would say the best part of that is actually the book list and just like the kickoff ideas that she has. And that's about it. I guess one last thing that I would like to share is the last couple of years, I have tried a bunch of teacher planners, and I ended up using Confessions of a Homeschooler as a website, and she has this template. It's just like a 8.5 by 11 size notebook teacher guide. And I used the Office Depot online to print it and just kind of get it bound like this. And it ends up only being, it's like $10 to buy the PDF and then about $10 to print it with that CC discount, which I think all Classical Conversation members get. I feel like even if you didn't have that discount, it would still be pretty affordable. But anyways, it was about $10 to print. So that is $20, which seems like a pretty good deal. But the reason I get it is the full page, like you can see the whole week at a glance. And that was enough space. I needed a lot of space so I could write in like what all of my kids were doing on one page, which is the goal. I'll show you what a filled in page looks like. Like this was my week for last year. So I'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and this is Saturday, Sunday. And then at the top, I would write like which school day we were on, like day 69, day 70. And I kind of just use this to keep track of my progress. And then at the end, she has areas to do grading. So that's you can go.
Hello.
At the end, she has some space for grades. So this was actually the first year that I really kept detailed grades of all of their tests. And then like reading logs, I wrote down everything the kids read and also everything we did for read aloud. So I plan on using that again today. And another thing is I also used at the back of the book, there are some resources. There's grade books. So I used that. This was the first year that I really kept detailed grades for them, but that was really helpful. I felt like to write just what test they did, what day they did it, and what grade they got to kind of see trends. I kind of ran out of space, and I did just use some of these blank pages for my son's grades. And then my reading logs, I put all of their personal reading logs and also our family read alouds on there. I also just used some of these extra pages to plan to make sure I was going to finish on time, some things. And I almost forgot to mention for CC, we definitely did that as a family. If you do Classical Conversations, you've probably seen these little flip books floating around, and these are like the main way that we review CC in our house. We do the audio, but I guess audio is the main way we review, but second to audio is these little books, because I would have my kids quiz each other on them. So we would just basically review 1 to 2 subjects a day. So maybe Mondays we would review science for the past 6 weeks, maybe science and English for the past 6 weeks. I would normally let them choose, but basically we would choose 2 subjects to review a day, and they would just quiz each other. They each had one of these, which has these little pages that have all the subjects. And then I also made them geography books where they could like point out the locations. So I definitely plan to do that again for next year. We also used the dry erase maps. If we were doing it all together, I had one of these for each of my kids. And so we would just kind of all do this together. And I would, just tell them what to label, and if they needed help, I would show them. This was also a product that I actually made called We Draw to Learn. And this is a how to draw guide for everything in the science part of the memory work. So this is an example of the plant cell. Let's see, I'll just show you. Each week of science memory work, there is a how to draw. So this is the how to draw an animal cell, It's step by step. And after the how to draw section, it's a blank black and white coloring page basically, and then a colored in page if the kids want to see just an example of how to color it. So this is, you know, in my kids, I printed them each. I bought, you know, I got each of them a little 1/2-inch binder and labeled it with their name. And inside the binder, they would put like their colored finished drawings. So that was one thing that we did that was new this year, and we definitely plan to do that for next year for the CC cycle 2 as well. So that was basically all we did for CC review. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to be making videos for all of the individual studies that they did. So I'll have a video coming with what my daughter did for 4th grade. We did a lot of new things for 4th grade. And what my daughter did for 2nd grade and what my son did for kindergarten. So stay tuned for those videos. Thanks.